Have you ever noticed the conveniences we use every single day? How many hours do you spend on your phone and laptop each day and not be bothered by the inconvenient ways before technology was invented? Have you ever noticed the electricity running in your house and the light that brightens your room, your air conditioner, your fridge that stores cold beverages for a hot sunny day, the remote control that turns on a TV, the neon lights on busy streets, medical x-ray scans when you get in an accident, even as simple as sending or receiving messages from people so far apart through the air? Did you know that all this was the ideas of a man nearly a century ago? If you're a science student, you might already know him from an electromagnetic course, or even from practice questions asking about magnetic flux. A whole company has been named after him, the company famous for electric automobile manufacturing using AC induction motors from this very inventor. This man, born in the mid-19th century, has over 300 patents to his name and many of his inventions surpassing his time. Inventions of his such as the radio, hydroelectric power, X-rays, magnifying transmitters for wireless communication, and alternating current induction motors has shaped our future world today, made by a futurist of the past. He was named a man of the future. This man who has contributed so much to our modern day-to-day living, ironically has left this world in debt, alone, leaving behind his remnant ideas for a far future. Yes, this man is none other than Nikola Tesla. In this video today, I want to talk about Nikola Tesla. I'll be talking about a brief history of his time when he was alive, and later focus on some discussions of his inventions, his geniusness, and also why he did not receive the credit he deserves today. Nikola Tesla was born in the village of Smiljan, Serbia, on July 10, 1856. His birth had been said to be in the midst of a lightning storm, to which a family midwife believed to be a bad omen. Hearing this, his mother, who he has accredited his creative abilities to, replied, "No, he will be a child of light." Later, we can witness becoming true. Tesla was the fourth of 5 children, having 3 sisters and an older brother. His brother Dane, also said to have had great creative and intelligent aspects, unfortunately had died after a horse riding incident when Nikola was only 5 years old. His father was an Orthodox priest in their village, and he had wanted his son to later get a job in clergy or to follow his steps in becoming a priest, despite Tesla being uninterested and more keen in pursuing science and engineering, more specifically electrical engineering. Tesla himself had come from a line of inventors. His grandfather and great-grandfather from his mother's side had invented various household and agricultural appliances, among others. His mother, too, had this ability. He had written, "My mother was an inventor of the first order and would, I believe, achieve great things, had she not been so remote from modern life and its multifold opportunities. She invented all kinds of tools and devices and wove the finest designs from thread which was spun by her. She worked indefatigably from break of day till late at night, and most of the wearing apparel and furnishings of the house was the product of her hands." As a kid, there were several instances that showed Tesla's ability and talents in inventing. For example, during a frog catching event in his neighborhood, when the other children had their own fishing hooks, Tesla had made his own without ever seeing how one was shaped. He improvised with some soft iron wire, tempered and sharpened at its end and made curved, connecting it to a strong string. After successfully baiting a frog and capturing it, the other children had followed his steps, and the neighborhood frogs had gone endangered. Another invention he'd made utilized the forces of nature. Using Maybugs, he attached 4 to a cross, which rotated on a spindle. This wheel was connected to another disc, transferring the motion from the bugs to give power to the disc. From this, he succeeded in transferring energy from the Maybug's movements. Tesla also had a knack for solving practical problems. When his community had brought a water pump for the fire department, he had fixed the waterway for the water to go to the suction hose when it had not worked previously. To this he had claimed to be the hero of the day. And on more dangerous instances, he had saved himself countless times, on several occasions nearly drowning, by planning his way out and crediting his inventor instincts for his survival. Even respected adults in his time looked at him and had recognized the bright child that he was. When a respected elder had approached him and other children playing to give them silver pieces, the man had said to him after taking a closer look, "No, not much. You can get nothing from me. You are too smart." This smart brain of his was not just pure natural abilities, though. His father gave him all sorts of mental exercises as a child. These exercises included guessing each other's thoughts, finding errors in some form or expression, repeating long sentences, and even performing mental calculations. Because of this, in later life, he was able to do calculus in his head without ever needing pen and paper. This great mind had its downsides as well. It was from his childhood that Tesla also experienced a great feat of mental conditions. He would experience flashes of light, later followed by a vision appearing right before him, even though it was not real. He had explained in his autobiography, different from the usual hallucinations people might experience, these flashes of light and images were things he'd seen before, disturbing his thoughts and actions. To compensate, he would try to banish these images by producing an even more vivid images of his imagination, with precise detail and with great distinctness. From this, Tesla was able to conjure and design all his projects and inventions, along with all the calculations and minute details of errors in his head. In his words, "When I have gone so far as to embody in the invention every possible improvement I can think of and see no fault anywhere, I put into concrete form this final product of my brain. Invariably, my device works as I conceived that it should, and the experiment comes out exactly as I planned it. In 20 years, there has not been a single exception." In 1851, Tesla attended the primary school in his village. There he learned German, arithmetic, and religion. After completing middle school, he later attended the higher school gymnasium in Karlovac. Here he had found his interest in electricity and water turbines after his professor had given him demonstrations. In his words, "I had become intensely interested in electricity under the stimulating influence of my professor of physics, who was an ingenious man and often demonstrated the principles by apparatus of his own invention." After high school, having completed his studies a year early, not surprisingly, he returned home to Smiljan. But here he had contracted cholera and, as a result, became bedridden for 9 months. During his last crucial days, he had said to his father, "Perhaps I may get well if you will let me study engineering," to which his father replied, "You will go to the best technical institution in the world." After he recovered, he spent a year in regaining proper physical health and was later sent to the Imperial Royal Technical College in Graz in 1874 on a military frontier scholarship. During his first year, Tesla was very ambitious. He worked from 3 in the morning till 11 at night, without break on weekends. He had the highest grades, passing 9 exams, half of those not yet required in his year, and he received a letter of recommendation from the dean, in which the dean wrote to his father, "Your son is a star of first rank." He had won the friendships of several professors, many of whom he discussed his ideas and inventions to. In his second year, he had a peculiar interest in the lectures of Professor Jacob Poschel and even gave suggestions and debated in improving designs of an electric motor the professor was demonstrating. Unfortunately, in his third year, he developed an obsession with gambling and could not focus on his studies. He had spent his time with this new hobby, later spending all of his money and eventually dropping out of college. After about a year disappearing and working to make a living for himself as a draftsman, in 1879 his father convinced him to return to school. A month later, his father passed away, and with the help of his uncles, he continued studying at the University of Prague as his father wanted. In 1881, with connections of his uncles as well, Tesla moved to Budapest, Hungary, and worked as a draftsman at the Budapest Telegraph Exchange under Tivadar Puskás. At the Central Telegraph Office, he had been recognized by the Inspector-in-Chief for his problem-solving abilities and calculating brain. The knowledge and practical experience I gained in the course of this work was most valuable, and the employment gave me ample opportunities for the exercise of my inventive faculties. I made several improvements in the central station apparatus and perfected a telephone repeater or amplifier which was never patented or publicly described but would be creditable to me even today. He was later offered a position in Paris at the Continental Edison Company, where he gained much practical experience in electrical engineering. Management took office of his abilities and soon had him designing and building improved versions of generating dynamos and motors. They also sent him on to troubleshoot engineering problems at other Edison utilities being built around France and Germany. It was at this time that Tesla had begun experimenting on motors and magnetic rotating fields in a mechanical shop in Paris. Tesla was once more acknowledged because of his abilities. By Charles Batchelor, the manager who overlooked the Paris installation, asked Tesla to come join him in America at the Edison Machine Works Company. There he troubleshooted installations and improved the generators. In his biography, he explained his awe in meeting Edison for the first time, praising him for his achievements despite not having many advantages and a scientific background. Edison, too, had given praise to Tesla's work, stating, "I have had many hardworking assistants, but you take the cake." Unfortunately, the relations between these two were not like this for long. When Tesla was offered $50,000 for designing an improved system of Edison's direct current, he did so, only later finding out this offer was a practical joke of American humor. He later resigned from the company. Tesla later patented an arc lighting system he developed while working under Edison and met with Robert Vane and Benjamin Vail, who financed a new company, Tesla Electric Light and Manufacturing, in 1885. With the improved DC system, many investors did not show him much interest though, and because of the competitive market at the time, his partners abandoned him and started a new utility company. In 1887, he formed the Tesla Electric Company with Alfred S. Brown and attorney Charles Peck. They had a laboratory in Manhattan where Tesla worked on improving and developing new types of electric motors, generators, and other devices. It was here he developed the AC induction motor, later patented in 1888. He was granted more than 30 patents for his inventions and invited to address the American Institute of Electrical Engineers on his work. His lecture caught the attention of George Westinghouse, an inventor who had launched the first AC power system near Boston and was Edison's major competitor in the Battle of the Currents. They made a deal on the AC design, Westinghouse offering $60,000 cash along with stock and royalty for Tesla's induction motor patents. In the 1890s, Tesla invented electric oscillators, meters, improved lights, and the high-voltage transformer known as the Tesla coil. He also experimented with X-rays, gave short-range demonstrations of radio communication 2 years before Guglielmo Marconi, and piloted a radio-controlled boat around a pool in Madison Square Garden. Together, Tesla and Westinghouse lit the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago and partnered with General Electric to install AC generators at Niagara Falls, creating the first modern hydroelectric power plant. Later, Tesla became indulged in his idea of a wireless transmission system named the World Wireless System. Starting with the Tesla coil, a larger and updated version of this Tesla coil, called a magnifying transmitter, was made. The Wardenclyffe Tower in Long Island had been the center for this global communications network, financed by J.P. Morgan. But due to the then ravenous invention of the radio and Marconi succeeding in transmitting signals across the Atlantic in 1901, Morgan backed out and decided to stop funding Tesla for his grand idea of an electric conducting Earth energy system. Soon after, the stock market had collapsed, and with expensive prices for materials, Tesla had to take down his tower. Without further fundings and many people doubting his theories of electric waves that could be conducted through the ground, Tesla had a nervous breakdown and started to withdraw from society, later showing signs of obsessive-compulsive disorder. Tesla lived his last decades in a New York hotel, still inventing and churning out new ideas, even as his energy and mental health faded. He spent his final years alone, accompanied by pigeons to which he fed, unmarried, and eating biscuits. Tesla died in his room on January 7, 1943. Later that year, the U.S. Supreme Court voided 4 of Marconi's key patents, belatedly acknowledging Tesla's innovations in radio. The AC system he championed and improved remains the global standard for power transmission today. A few interesting takeaways we're going to be looking at from this short biography are as follows. Firstly, it is undeniably true that Nikola Tesla was an exceptional human being. He had abilities and natural talents like no other inventors and engineers, and his life was brimming with a passion for envisioning and building a world of the future. Despite his mental conditions since early childhood, a rare case not yet clinically explained even today, he had the instinct to overcome them and use them for a much bigger and more productive purpose. It is also important to note and acknowledge that neurodivergent people have had abnormal yet very intriguing abilities, many of whom have filled our history books today and changed the world we live in today. Tesla, having had many inventions and brilliant ideas up his sleeve, ironically had died uncelebrated, and instead his room investigated for his files, rumored to have had designs for a weapon of mass destruction. But many people believed that Tesla was a pacifist. He didn't believe in wars, and thus his claims of a death ray were surely not made to be handed to potentially dangerous people. He believed in humanity, and all his life he poured hours of hard work into making the world a better place to live, acknowledging the people before him who have inspired him and added fuel to his love of inventing. This was one of his shortcomings. He didn't focus on money. Unlike Edison, who was a businessman and had campaigned his way to make sure people were more interested in using the DC system for his profit, whilst Tesla, having lost to races in gaining patents, didn't mind that other inventors were using his inventions, which led them to receive Nobel Prizes. This is one of the reasons why we'd hear more about Edison and other inventors and not much about Tesla. Among enemies, Tesla had people who supported him, who were really more active players in the War of the Currents than he has. For example, George Westinghouse, and they were people who had not yet been as famously acknowledged. To this we can remember that science is a way forward through collaboration and sharing of knowledge. Tesla also believed in a more sustainable way of getting energy. With his AC induction system, he could reduce the amount of coal power plants needed to make the DC system work, and he pioneered the way for power plants to generate energy from waterfalls, a force of nature. He looked at nature for inspiration, imagining ways in which man could control even the weather. He predicted the future of wireless communication, that is, us at the moment, seeing images on a single screen and hearing voices of people so far from our reach. And as a last note, Tesla truly was living in the wrong era. Had more people believed in him in the past, like Westinghouse had, who knows what kind of different future we would be living in today. Had he all the funding in the world, who knows if the Wardenclyffe Tower and his wireless world system would actually be perfected and implemented.